Is cricket heading for the soup kitchens? Is the boss, Kevin Roberts, heading for the exit door? Kevin Roberts is the CEO of Cricket Australia. He played 23 first-class matches for New South Wales. Could play, this bloke. He's been the CEO of Cricket Australia since October 2018, replacing James Sutherland. As I said, a very fine player. His father was president of the Gordon Cricket Club in Sydney. Kevin Roberts joined Bankstown. In his first year, 93-94, he smashed the first-grade batting record with 1,160 runs, eclipsing the previous record, which was 964. And in that season, he made centuries against Balmain, North Sydney and Campbelltown. And in the final against Parramatta, he made the match-winning 139. He was captain of Bankstown, was described as a quietly spoken but intelligent captain, extremely popular and always looking to attack. He became the fastest Bankstown player to 3,000 runs, taking just 5 seasons. He was captain. He guided them to a premiership in 1999-2000, and it was said that with his, quote, classical stroke play and outstanding fielding, he certainly led by example. I say all that because often these people get jobs and you think, well, who the hell are they? Did this bloke ever hold a cricket bat? Well, he's now facing the innings of his life. He's agreed to talk to us tonight, and he's on the line. Kevin Roberts, thank you for joining us. Are you heading for the exit door?
Not at all, Alan, and thanks for taking that trip down memory lane as well. So they're challenging times, aren't they, for most organisations in the world, not just sporting organisations in Australia, and we're navigating our way through that, just like most other organisations.
But one or two people continue to write your epitaph. Is there a cash flow problem? I understand that, like a lot of businesses, you've got debtors who can't pay, and of course you've got money on the share market, and you've been open and honest about this. That's taken a dive. Is there a cash flow problem?
So we had $97 million in cash and investments just last month, Alan, and hard to believe it was only last month when the Women's T20 World Cup final was on as well, isn't it? But that $97 million was headed for a low point in August of $40 million, and then due to bounce back on the back of the Indian tour to up to 100 again. So all in line with our reserves policy. But of course, when you strike an unprecedented situation like this, and no one's built a level of reserves to deal with a pandemic. So effectively, we've taken a hit thus far, and we had to project that if we sat back and did nothing, then those cash reserves would be completely eroded by the end of August. So it's just been really important that we take action at this point, because we've got to do everything possible to deliver the season in 2020-21. But in the event we eroded our cash reserves completely and the season didn't happen, then the issue is one of a few $100 million. So it was really imperative that we were proactive in dealing with it.
So, Peter, Peter's got some strong views on this, but look, just one thing before we go to Peter. What will relieve the revenue stream down the track? Supposing we still have social distancing and you're playing at the Melbourne Cricket Ground before nobody and no one is paying at the turnstiles, what's that going to do to you?
So there's 4 things that we've got to do, Alan. One is that we need to continue working on securing a debt facility, which is running along well at this point, but not finalised yet. We need to reduce our costs appropriately in Cricket Australia, and we're working with state and territory associations who are also showing leadership in terms of reduced grants from Cricket Australia, and the players and the coach, Justin Langer, who you know so well. The players, I've got to say, have been fantastic in putting their hands up and saying, hey, let's share the load here across the sport via reduced player payments for a period. So across those four prongs, if you like, that's what we need to navigate our way through this.
Peter?
Kevin, it's Peter Credlin here. If you go into the season as normally planned, with the push out of the NRL and the AFL, there's likely to be a clash. You'll likely also have the racing season as well, all in together. If you can't have an audience in the grandstand, can you confidently wash your face with broadcast revenues and obviously sports gambling, sports wagering revenues?
So our big focus, Peter, is doing everything possible to deliver the season. And at the same time, we've got to prudently plan for the possibilities that could come at us. So what we've said is that we don't anticipate our revenue halving, but that's the scenario we're preparing for to make sure cricket can withstand it, because that's the responsible thing to do. So we'll be able to navigate through that scenario. But we're obviously hopeful that things are better.
My apologies.
Yeah, but
my apologies.
Can I just jump in there? That just sounds like CEO speak to me, Kevin. Can you wash your face? Can you break even if you don't have anyone in the stands, but you go ahead with the season, and between broadcast rights and sports wagering, and I used to work for the racing industry in Victoria, so I understand the value of wagering to sport. Can you make ends meet with just those two revenues?
Yeah, so we're making sure that we can make ends meet. Even if revenue is down 50%, Peter, we can make ends meet by doing the 4 things that I mentioned a few minutes ago.
Right. Well, just let me take a point up here. May there be some virtue in what appears to be a difficulty? Just supposing England, New Zealand, India don't come, and you have access to some of the best cricketers in the world for the Big Bash. Now, the Big Bash was a massive revenue stream a couple of years ago. It's lost some of its appeal, primarily because some of the finest cricketers are not available. Just supposing you restructured the Big Bash as a wholly domestic competition with people like Warner and Steve Smith and Mitchell Starc and Patrick Cummins and so on, is that a potential revenue raiser to actually make up for what you might lose if you don't have a major touring side like India?
Well, the Big Bash is a really important element of cricket, Alan, as you know, and it becomes even more important if we don't have the ability to bring in touring teams, which we're obviously doing everything to make sure we can. But certainly the Big Bash becomes even more important if we're limited in terms of international cricket.
You've been there a while. Now, people watching us now will say, look, there's one thing you haven't asked Kevin Roberts, which has to be asked of Todd Greenberg and Raelene Castle. Hasn't the administration of sport in this country, indeed all over the world, become hopelessly bloated? There just seem to be people who, with jobs, and you can't define what they do, they're being paid 300, 400, 500,000. Will sport post-coronavirus be the same as it was pre-coronavirus, or are we going to cut back on the fat?
I think there's a great opportunity for cricket clubs, Alan, in the community, with a renewed sense of community in every sense, including sport. And we were very conscious of this pre-coronavirus in terms of making sure that we could get as much funding as possible out to communities. So we'd already reduced our head office expenses by $20 million a year and transferred all of that to investment in community cricket around the country. So we were already on that journey. And as you say, it just makes it all the more important to lead and serve our communities around the country and make sure that as much of the financial resources as we have are channeled in their direction.
So finally, will you and cricket be here this time next year?
We absolutely will, Alan. We're doing the appropriate and responsible things to navigate our way through this. It's a challenging time, like it is for so many organisations and communities. But by doing what we're doing, we'll navigate our way through this, and cricket will emerge as strong as possible and continue to deliver to the cricket fans who love the game.
Good on you, Kevin. Thank you for your time. We love the game too, and we wish you well. Peter, interesting times, though, aren't there, everywhere? And I think the light is being shone now on some of these cricket administrations. They're just too big that you can't conceive of 150 people being employed by Rugby Australia or Rugby League, and you wonder what the hell do they do for the money that they're being paid?
I think that goes for big sports right across the board. I think the commercialisation of sport has taken a lot away from the various sports. And then you see other sports, Olympic sports, where they're really run on far too insignificant funds for the calibre of the sport and its standing internationally. I think we need a real rethink of how we fund sport in this country.
Definitely.